Let me introduce myself. My name is Bandung Sahari. I'm the Executive Vice President of Sustainability in Astra Agro Lestari.
Nama saya Mirna Sapitri, Deputi Lingkungan Hidup dan Sumber Daya Alam pada Otorita Ibu Kota Nusantara. Pada hari ini saya bergabung di dalam plenary session dari Iconic kelima 2024 sebagai salah seorang pembicara. Saya senang sekali bisa berada di dalam forum ini untuk memberikan sharing perkembangan mengenai pembangunan Ibu Kota Nusantara kepada audiens yang lebih luas dan secara khusus kepada teman-teman PPI Jerman yang mengikuti kegiatan ini.
My name is Indrawan Prabaharyaka. You can call me Indra. I'm attending Iconic today as a speaker.
So I'm Silvia Benedito. I'm a landscape architect and the architect. In this sense, I'm in the cross-disciplinary world of design. I have been teaching for almost 15 years at the Harvard Graduate School of Design in the landscape architecture department. There, I also started to work very early with our students so they can also not only understand what climate is, but also design with it.
Okay, so it was great sessions and plenary sessions, and I highlight the importance of the palm oil for Indonesia and how the palm oil plantations can contribute to the decarbonization of the country. So then we actually highlight several initiatives that we trying to develop, and just an example, if we set up the methane capture, and we also develop the nature-based solutions. So we hope that with that initiative, we can contribute for this climate change mitigations and also adaptation.
Kenapa ini penting buat kami untuk hadir di sini meskipun hanya bisa secara online, karena banyak sekali informasi yang berkembang di luar yang itu tidak didasarkan kepada data dan juga kebijakan yang sebenarnya diambil untuk menjalankan pembangunan IKN. Tentu saja kami tidak menyalahkan hal tersebut karena memang informasi itu mungkin masih belum menjangkau pada banyak pihak ya. Jadi kesempatan ini adalah kesempatan yang sangat berharga bagi saya khususnya untuk bisa menyampaikan apa adanya yang kami lakukan dan kebijakan yang diambil. Tentu saja membangun Ibu Kota Nusantara ini adalah pengalaman pertama bagi Indonesia. Ini bukan tugas yang ringan, ini tugas yang sangat-sangat berat dan kami menyadari bahwa ada banyak hal yang memang perlu diperbaiki. Nah, di dalam sektor lingkungan hidup sendiri, di mana saya diberikan amanah untuk mengawal itu, nah, situasinya bahkan lebih berat lagi karena yang terjadi dengan pembangunan IKN ini dalam sektor lingkungan hidup itu sekaligus juga adalah memulihkan lingkungan yang sudah rusak. Kerusakan itu terjadi bukan karena pembangunan IKN, tetapi kerusakan yang telah terjadi puluhan tahun yang lalu, yang disebabkan karena berbagai aktivitas yang lebih mengedepankan kegiatan-kegiatan ekstraktif di dalam pemanfaatan sumber daya alam. Nah, justru dengan kebijakan pembangunan IKN ini kita ingin melakukan transformasi pada praktek-praktek itu. Dan transformasi ini bukan hal yang gampang. Mungkin gampang dilihat di dalam dokumen, tetapi di dalam pelaksanaannya ini bukan hal yang sama sekali gampang. Kami tidak pernah menganggap ini sebagai pekerjaan yang gampang. Ini pekerjaan yang sangat berat. Karena itu kami memerlukan dukungan dari semua pihak, termasuk dari teman-teman PPI. Kami terbuka dengan konsep-konsep, dengan kemudian juga teknologi-teknologi terbaru yang dikembangkan oleh teman-teman di dalam riset-riset baik untuk master ataupun doktoralnya. Karena Nah, IKN ini dari sisi lingkungan sebenarnya adalah sebuah giant living lab, di mana kita bisa bersama-sama melakukan berbagai uji coba, inovasi untuk sampai kepada sebuah cara-cara yang lebih tepat secara teknologi, secara sosiokultural, untuk bisa menjadikan kota ini sebagai kota yang hijau, kota yang nyaman dihuni, dan kota yang juga resilience terhadap perubahan iklim.
In my plenary session, there are multiple experts from the new capital, from the planned new capital in Indonesia, Nusantara, and there's another one from the climatology agency in Indonesia, another one from the palm oil, I think, and me, and another architect. I think one important point is that there is a need to create a space for transdisciplinary exchange. So it's not only so climate problem is not only the expertise of climatology and climate science, but it asks for multiple expertises from different disciplines.
I was the founder of Oficina, and currently I'm a climate consultant in Uniola, in Munich, where I supervise the projects that are very much obliged to respond to climatic solutions, but also to address the climatic challenges. I'm originally from Portugal, where we are suffering the increase of heat, or let's say the increase of drought periods, also subject to a greater extent of growing wildfires. And this is a new topic, or an older new topic that I'm also embracing with my students, on how can landscape and landscape architecture address this current challenge. And wildfires, yes, they are a result of climate change, but in fact is like a wound that is in the landscape and just gets worse with the challenge of climatic degradation. This has to do with also with the fact that the rural areas are also being desertified and ecologically deprived from its biodiversity, was to bring simplicity to a very complex issue, which is climate, how to design for climate. And, and this question will have different answers if you ask this question to a politician, or to an economist, to a sociologist, to ecologist, right? What does it mean that also in the context of architecture and landscape architecture? And this topic, climatic adaptation, or living with climate, is very old in our disciplines, as I tried also to convey in my presentation. We are always in contact with weather. We are always trying to be with weather, either protecting it or immersing it. Now it's summer. We want to have wind and shadow. And this is to say that I visit projects during my research and talked with communities also to get their feedbacks. Projects not only from the global north, but also from the global south. I came across, or tried to simplify a very complex subject into 5 principles, which now is 5, can be 7, 8, 9, 10 in a few years, but I think 5 now is enough because they go to the basics. One of these principles is asymmetry. We are, as designers, we tend to be educated to design symmetrical things. Yeah, even our bodies are not symmetrical, but we tend to think that symmetry is a correct way. But we know that climate is not symmetrical. A facade exposed to the west, going to be very hot. A facade exposed to the north, going to be, and this I'm talking on the perspective of the global north, because for instance, if we are in the global south, is the opposite. A facade exposed to the north is warmer than a facade exposed, for instance, to the east. So there's different thermal loads considering the solar orientation. The second is texture. Also as architects, I was trained to think that, a clean wall is better because it's cleaner, or a very kind of soft wall is cleaner, accumulates less dirt, less dust. But it's from a climatic perspective, this is not really correct. A wall with textures create microshadows, and that helps to reduce the shortwave radiation. Means that it will help the wall to absorb not so much energy. Yeah. The third principle, the verticality of space, is a little bit like the symmetry, the verticality of space. Climate is vertical. We know that cold air tends to accumulate on the bottom, and hotter air tends to be on the higher levels of a space. For example, here, you don't see it, but I'm on my second level of my apartment, and it's warmer. So in summer, it's complicated to work here. I have always to go to the lower level because it's colder. The fourth project or principle is porosity. We think that cars and asphalt roads, they asphalted or they make the cities very permeable. We know that permeability is one of the big causes, or dark permeability is one of the big causes that cities are warmer, because they accumulate a lot of heat during the day. Also, we know that many cities in many regions are facing the fact that the groundwater levels are sinking, are decreasing, because there's less percolation in our urban spaces. So permeability, breathability, thinking about sidewalks that have open joints, that allows little plants to grow, that allows the water to percolate, is very important. Yeah. The last principle is the scales of weather. For example, winds. There's an example here in Germany, for instance, in Stuttgart, that from 1956, they adopted the city, the planning district, and the planning governance adopted the wind corridors. And this was very important for the economy, because the city of Stuttgart is in a valley, and what it was recognized is that if the wind that comes from the mountains doesn't go through, the pollution gets stuck in this valley. So, and the city, the planning department adopted these wind corridors to acknowledge the importance of these large-scale exchanges of air, to clean the air, to exhaust the pollution of these regions. So not only at a larger scale, but also at a small scale. We love this moment when we are in a plaza, for instance, or in a garden, and we feel this wind coming through to cool down. And this is particularly important for the global south, because as a very humid environment, if we don't want to have to work with air conditionings, the most efficient way to cool down is expose our bodies, that sweat, expose it to wind and to breezes.
Okay, I think iconic is very important, and then it is such a great idea and initiative developed by this Persatuan Pelajar Indonesia in Germany. So then I think you need to move on to continue your effort, and actually in this year terms, you highlight the importance of climate change mitigations and also the adaptations in many aspects, and also especially for the urban area. So then people always talk about the mitigations and adaptations in this um, big landscape, but not in the urban area. So then I learned a lot from this conference, and because you presented many perspectives from many experts, from the professor and from students. So then I hope that it will produce such important key word for mitigations of the climate change and also adaptation.
Saya karena tidak hadir in person, jadi mungkin tidak bisa menangkap seluruhnya ya. Apa namanya situasi yang eh, hadir di venue pada saat yang tadi. Tapi satu poin yang saya berikan apresiasi adalah bahwa kegiatan ini saya kira cukup inklusif karena melibatkan berbagai pihak dari perwakilan dari pemerintah, kemudian perwakilan dari private sector dan juga dari teman-teman peneliti sendiri. Nah, dialog-dialog seperti ini memang harus terus dikembangkan dan diperkuat karena ini adalah sebuah dialog yang menghubungkan antara pengalaman konseptual dengan pengalaman praktis yang itu perlu terus kita sebarluaskan sehingga teman-teman yang melakukan riset pun juga memahami problem-problem praktis yang dihadapi baik oleh pemerintah ataupun dari sektor-sektor swasta ya.
The Indonesian foods, of course, it's very unique, and also the environment. It brings the tropical atmosphere into Germany, so it's unique.
And I think this is particularly important on the global south. And perhaps that's also the uniqueness of this event. And I want to kind of highlight that is the fact that we are talking about this topic in the context of the global south, which naturally, and I'm expecting, and I'm hopefully that we're going to be more, and I'm saying we because I tend to live more in the north, in the global north rather than in the global south, despite Portugal being perhaps in the middle of these two parts, two halves of the continent. We have to embrace the differentiation, the specific materialities, economies, traditions, climates of each region. So I'm very happy that this event is happening, focused on the global south. What I find this event particular is, I was very surprised and happy to see Dr. Sahari's presentation before me, talking really about the wildfires and the extraction of palm oil, and bringing this idea of climatic deterioration, bringing also to the core of community engagement and biodiversity conservation or support. So while I think this climatic, the current crisis or alertness that we are living today is very challenging because it's so complex, I also think the uniqueness of this event today, the iconic, is the fact that it brings this a multidisciplinary approach, an interdisciplinary approach, and only by this kind of sensibility or awareness we are able to get there. So in one hand, climate is not only for policymakers, for economists, or for politicians, or for communities. And I'm very focused and dedicated to the crossing between academia and practice, because one brings innovation to the other, but also forces us to be pragmatic in such complex projects.
So I would like to see the current update, because every single country, every single institution has their own initiative. So then by learning from their updates, so then we can improve, especially to improve on the improvement of our country, Indonesia.
Jadi kita juga berharap agar riset-riset yang dilakukan itu adalah riset yang sifatnya aplikatif, tentu saja untuk kita bisa bersama-sama menjadi bagian dari perubahan Indonesia yang lebih baik lagi.
I hope in Indonesia, climate change, climate problems becomes more and more popular. There will be more and more awareness, demands, pressures to take care of our climate. And this would be more or less similar for the global south, namely to develop this consciousness and to ask, to demand for the protection and improvement of our climate.
We have to be together, because when we think that climate, the attending climate is a top-down solution, then we just bring the big lobbies and the politicians. We have to think that to embrace an integrated and a just transition, we have to be to embrace the bottom-up strategies, therefore integrated and inclusive.